We've chummed the pot again.
There she goes.
We've chummed the bed for the kitty cam. What an adorable cat. God damn it, I love that animal. I know. How is this for audio? Since we're watching the cat. That's pretty good, right?
I think it's good.
Nice.
The cat gets all the love.
Gosh, I love it. Look at her, though. I mean, I just can't help it. I'm such a softie when it comes to that stuff. Like seeing her happy at this age when, you know what I mean, just for a couple minutes eating treats when she could barely move normally. Always coughing. I just love it.
The best.
All right, well, there's Kitty Cam. On with the show.
Here we go. Look at you.
What? Wait a second. Does that mean you know what it is? I was wondering if you did.
No, I have no idea. It just sounds like my murder
That's
podcast.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Where did my phone go? Hang on one second. First of all, come on. Hi. Welcome, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
Allow me to get my phone real quick, Mrs. Ryan.
Oopsie daisy.
So I can look up exactly what the heck it was. But that was for you. That was for you and clickbait because I couldn't think of anything to make the show about.
God, you're
so I went to the news, which is what?
The news is always a crazy roller coaster.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail that.
You didn't. Do you have something to? You have some negative feelings about the news, and I was talking about something else. I'd like to hear about your negative feelings about the news.
No, I should not have spoken and interjected. I would like to hear what you have to say about the news.
No, it's fine.
Nervous.
It was a 48 hours cold case from 1990 that happens to have been reopened, I guess, yesterday because a person of interest is now talking to authorities or something. But the gist of it was Marlene Warren was killed at her front door by someone dressed as a clown.
Oh.
1990.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I thought you would know about it. It's 48 hours cold case from 1990. And so it was episode 48. So I Googled 48 to find out what the heck, we could make the show about. So that's how it was. And then it was a topical story because it was just yesterday and details today. Broke yesterday, more details today.
Will look into that.
Yeah, I thought it would be your
it's
style.
Definitely up my alley.
Mrs. Ryan once, well, first of all right. Hello, every time, every single time. Today is Tuesday, April 24th, 2018. I am here with Mrs. Ryan. We're talking about 48 hours. Mrs. Ryan once ruined a new... remember when plasma television's burn-in was a factor? We bought a television. I can't remember what or why, but it was a size upgrade. It was like 58 to 65 or something like that. This is years ago. And specifically said, all right, well, we got to wait, X amount of hours, whatever the heck, until we, I gave her all the rules for breaking in a plasma television. At that point in her life, would this be fair, Mrs. Ryan? At that point in her life, she only watched one channel, or at least left it on for the majority of the time while she worked on her computer or whatever else, and that was Discovery ID. Discovery.
Yeah, that's the one.
Investigation. Discovery.
I also did not listen to anything factual that you said, so sorry about that, but I ruined the TV.
The gist of it is that TV we had to do a swap around again. That was a living room TV, and there was a burn-in of the ID logo in the bottom corner. That's since been moved to the bedroom. This was a long, long time ago. But literally, the logo 5 years later, 6 years later, is still burned in. I don't even know if the network's still around.
The network is around.
Oh, good.
Is not as accessible as it used to be. So,
were there complaints?
I don't know. I did tell that to someone that worked at Discovery at the time.
Yeah, the issue was, I think, this was only like 5 years ago, so it wasn't So it wasn't like 10 years ago or 20 years ago where they first started putting the little I don't even know what you would call it, but the little network icon in the bottom corner. Essentially,
network icon.
It would be like right here. The burn-in is right here. If you were to look at the screen, would that be right? It's right about here.
Yeah, forever. In every seat.
Anyway, I think the gist of it was probably too bright at the time. They're more like transparent, whatever that's called, translucent now, so that, you know what I mean, it's not as bold of a change.
As I recall, it was static.
And everything on the show is dark and ominous. Mm-hmm. So this bright idea, I don't even know how people were able to watch the show, because I would like walk into a dark room with some, if you were like watching it in the bedroom with your computer on, your face is all lit up, so you couldn't tell the difference. But like, it's just a dark screen with a blaring like the logo was like a flashlight. I don't know. I don't want to get on that. Sorry about that. I don't want to get stuck on it anyway.
You can't. I did often leave that channel on. I didn't always ingest it as thoroughly as it seems that I should have.
It's not possible that you could have ingested it, because there was a time, and get this, folks, there was a time where Mrs. Ryan was so heavy on the TiVo or the DVR or whatever that she was actually, and this doesn't make sense, she was recording more than 24 hours a day of programming. There's only 24 hours a day, but because of the multiple channels and multiple whatevers, she was doubling up in multiple episodes. And I think at that point you were still stuck on like the record all new and repeats or whatever the heck, so you weren't clearing it out or whatever. But there was like 27 hours of programming being recorded for every 24-hour day. And that's ludicrous, and that gave you MS.
I think that factored in, definitely did not help.
Just overload, man. Too much. That's like take a pill mentality, you know?
Oh, yeah. It did not help my mindset. Like, slit my wrist for sure.
And not just you. I mean, we're talking about you, but everybody, right?
Here's the deal. I don't think it's that common of a tale that you ruin a television set with a logo like that. I take solace in the fact that there's now a podcast about unsolved crimes. And this one in particular, My Favorite Murder, is really, it's a more uplifting way than watching 27 hours of recorded TiVo and negative murder stories. So I feel a little bit better about it. But it was not a good time in my life. I can't change that.
That's funny and very honest. Good for you. It is funny, though, because there are actually Porsche people, Barry Greenstein is who I'm thinking of specifically, where you guys actually do bond and talk about like Dateline on ID and ID discovery and all that stuff. You guys actually do keep up on it enough that, or at least you both have enough of a groundwork laid that you can have many conversations about it.
Here's the thing, like a lot of my conversations, and I think everyone's, but like we touch on things often, but we don't typically delve too deep into them. We're
at car shows. It's not like we're sitting in leather chairs having cigars, just truly getting into a conversation.
Yeah, which I could definitely hold my own in, and I would thoroughly enjoy that. But at 6:30 in the morning, when you're like, look at my pretty car, let's talk about dead people, it's not always the most, it doesn't go over the best in public settings.
That's funny.
You never know. But that clown one, I did not know about, but there's a serial killer, John Wayne Gacy, I think, dressed up like a clown and went to kids' birthday parties.
Do you know one of my favorite unloved, this is a terrible segue, one of my favorite comedies? It's one of those, it's not that it's unloved. I think anyone that knows about it enjoys it quite a bit, but I don't think many people know about it. And it's one of those where I was too young to really even when it came out, but I found it on HBO or something, like visiting my grandparents' house and recorded it or whatever. There's a movie from, coincidentally, 1990, actually. I'm almost positive it came out in 1990, called Quick Change, where, in fact, it would probably be 1990 because it's probably all based on this same shit. It never even occurred to me. But there's a movie called Quick Change with Bill Murray, Gina Davis, Randy Quaid, and a cast of other characters, Jason Robards, and whatever, a bunch of other people that you would know, where he dresses up as a clown and robs a bank in New York City.
How have I not heard of this movie?
If we haven't watched it together, I would love to, like even today or tonight, because I adore it. I love it. It's one of my favorite comedies, but it's not because it's necessarily funny. It's kind of effed up because I don't want to ruin the whole plot, but it's a clown who robs a bank, and then that's in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. So then the whole movie is getting away with it, essentially. And it's fun. It's funny, because the people in it are so good and the performances are good. But he dresses up as a clown, and there must have been something about that time.
It was I've binged My Favorite Murder, so they've chronologically gone through pieces of things. And it seems like, at least for hearing them validate certain things, it seems like the 90s were a weird time for just humanity.
And we didn't know because we were kids. Is that possible?
Yeah, and that's what it seems like. They're about my age. One's older, one's a couple years younger. And
the Cold War was just ending, had just ended. And we had not gotten into yet the Gulf War. What the heck? It wasn't called the Gulf War back then. It was called...
It wasn't? I remember that with the...
Stop. it got to be the Gulf War. At first, it was called like it wasn't a war at first, and I'm talking George Herbert Walker Bush, whose wife just passed away. And I was in Vera Barron's 8th grade social studies class. That's right. I called her Vera. She was my teacher. Her Mrs. Barron. This is, yeah, I know. But anyway, that was when I finally actually took notice of her, because I was following the war every night because I had a black and white television in my room and I was able to watch it's crazy. I know it doesn't matter. Anyway, when Schwarzkopf was involved and all that, like the early days.
It totally does matter, just for the record.
Well, the early days when Chris Farley was doing "I'm Norman Schwarzkopf" and all that stuff, it wasn't the Gulf War yet. It was something else, and it wasn't like a Contra or something like that. It was something else. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can't remember. But yes, the first Gulf War. We weren't into the first Gulf War yet. Boy, all that to get there. Sorry.
No, because it is perfect, because the 90s were that confusing. Like, none of us have any proper recollection of what happened, because from that podcast, it sounds like, well, one of them, at least one of them, I think both, but one of them, they're from California, like NorCal. So their recollection of history is different, because local news is different everywhere.
It's different than what? Than your recollection of it?
It's different everywhere. Or it was in like NorCal local news.
Regions
versus,
have different,
yeah,
experiences, certainly.
Okay, that was my.
And then they're covered
big
differently
point.
on the news.
It just seems like for big things that seem to be like epidemic proportions of like child safety and murderous clowns.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, that's just one guy and one girl got murdered. You know what I mean? And it was in the 90s, before the internet and everything else. Like, there's a million of these.
I know you can get away with a lot more then.
Right.
So creepy.
But isn't it neat now that you know, that, I mean, people talk about the privacy stuff, and I take great issue with it myself even. But at the same time, I do feel that with all of the craziness, it's actually a safer place to live.
I think the
we're
awareness
just aware of
is
a heck of a lot more.
so much, which is helpful, because it makes you look out for things.
If
like,
you can keep it in check, forget the point. Because I feel that a lot of people get the overwhelm from all of that, and then
chaos.
fear of life kicks in. I'm afraid to go outside, and I need to take a pill, and I need to go to therapy, and all this other stuff. None of those things are bad, people. We're not saying that you shouldn't take your medication and you shouldn't go to therapy. Those are important things. But we're saying that maybe some of the reasons that you need that stuff are environmental and scaling.
I said this morning, what's the nature that you nurture? Like, which wolf do you feed? Which I know we've talked about.
Tomorrowland, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it really bleeds into every facet of life, whether it's like, what did you grow up thinking that is maybe questionable? Mm-hmm. Or like...
You mean like, what were you brought up to believe?
Yeah. Like, do you nurture that? That's your nature, right? So what do you feed that? Like, do you believe in it? Do you support it currently as an adult? Every action you make makes that decision. So
right. It's true. Well, and you're constantly being formed. You know, we're never done just because you know, to kids' eyes, they're a kid, and then somewhere something happens, and then one day they're an adult. In the real world, there is no line. There is nobody tells you. It just, you are, you know what I mean? So handling that is it's hard for anybody. It's hard. And I think everybody handles it differently. How's that? Everybody handles it differently.
Everyone handles it differently. I feel like people navigate it differently. Like,
I feel like that's the same thing.
Is it the same thing?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Well,
tell me how you mean.
I guess navigate is like finding a path of like, what path are you going to
fair,
stay here? And then you handle the things that come up on that path.
Yeah, you've made it. Yeah, you're totally right. Oh. You're totally right.
Thanks. Sorry, I was fixing my sock too.
Well, no, keep going with your trajectory.
Oh, well, that is what we talked about a lot too. And it's how you pick what path you end up going on is really subjective. It's really personal. And that changes depending on where you're from. I think I got off topic. Sorry. I went on the wrong path.
I don't know. I mean, I think that you're whatever you want to talk about.
Well, This morning, I saw a friend this morning, and I guess my mind's been kind of reeling from that, in that it all does feel very similar. Like what path we pick, like, do you go to a doctor?
What are you talking about right now?
I got off topic.
I know, but what's the root thinking for what you're talking about? Are you talking about the overwhelm, modern society? What are you talking, like, where are we starting so that we have a jump off point?
The overwhelm.
Okay.
Thank you, because that seems to be the most prevalent thing I see.
Okay, now what's the overwhelm to you? What is that? What causes that? What's it from?
Well, to me...
or what overwhelms you? What are we, like, what causes this overwhelm that we're talking about right now?
I feel like fitting together life can be overwhelming. Like, I just think like a lot of people I know that are still out here, which are not as many as it seems like. Like a lot of people, we all moved out here together.
Stay on here. For the people who are still here.
The overwhelm is coming in for the people that, more so it seems, for people that stayed here, because they're not where they're from. They're not around their people.
I have a different theory for that as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
People who've moved out here anybody who moved out, this is I'm going to make a lot of general stereotypes, and I'm going to speak in a lot of generalizations. It's not about anybody in particular, but most people who aren't from here come here for a reason, and it's usually to make it, or it's to make it in some way, whether it's financial, fame, cars, music videos, whatever the heck your thing is. You came here to get famous at doing that. So the longer you're here, without that happening, the more desperation creeps up, the more disappointment, the more the more what am I going to do, the more fear, the more all of the stuff, let alone everything that's being broadcast at you through everything. I feel like it's ticking clock syndrome. How's that? It's ticking clock syndrome, where the stakes get higher and higher every day somebody doesn't make it in LA.
It's a daunting reality, but you're totally right in how you stated that. I think that's the overwhelm that you're to validate that again.
Yeah.
And people just see it differently. They feel it differently. It hits at them out of nowhere differently. And so I think for me, the overwhelm like clouds my head so badly that like that's what shuts some of my body down. It takes so much energy to go through all the different thoughts that are there from that overwhelm of like, does someone think this way? Do they think that way?
Yeah, but so what would be your ideal situation to remedy that? And I'm asking only because, and I'm trying to cut to it quick, because for me, I wouldn't want to spend too much time thinking about any of that stuff. I would want to get rid of it as much as possible, because it is my opinion that the less thinking you do about other people and things that you're talking about that actually wear you out, you should do less and less of that. Now, you may not be able to.
No, you're fully right. I literally felt my body getting heated as we were talking.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. And my answer, as it was this morning, is you have to. Well, I don't like saying you have to and putting on things, but the way it worked for me, and the only way it worked for me, was to change my lifestyle. And I started with her, and I said, just meditate every day. I don't care. The obvious go-to is, what app did you use or whatever, blah, blah.
I don't have time. I don't have time to meditate.
And the thing is, and I told her, I said, I don't care if you lay down for 5 minutes every day quietly.
Yeah.
That's
Go
meditation.
take a nap without sleeping. It's the same thing. Put your phone away. Spend some time in quiet.
I told her that too. I was like, put your phone.
It's not hard. You're doing it when you don't know you're doing it. Like, I was doing it my entire childhood and didn't know that. We talked about this on there because I was an only child and I spent a lot of time alone, or with the television or whatever, but I was daydreaming the whole time. Daydreaming is meditating.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It really is. They're different versions. There are different versions all throughout, and it's a spectrum, but it's all the same. Spending some time with yourself. Sorry, please.
No,
you know how passionate I am about this. Forgive me.
I am, and your passion has bled into my life, because it's like you said, like, it makes so much sense. It's so simple, but it's impossible to implement. Yeah. And I find a lot of... It
doesn't fit into your life.
No.
It just doesn't. One's life.
It doesn't. And not how they're currently structured.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't fit into one's life. You have to make room for it.
But what I'm noticing that's happening is that people are changing jobs. They're choosing lower paying jobs with more time, because they want time. They need time. They're exhausted. Like, they just need time to reflect, but they don't know how. So they're like, oh, suddenly my weekend's really long. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And the inclination is to work to get more done. And they're just exhausted. And that overwhelm comes in. They're like, I must be doing something wrong.
Right.
And they start to question themselves.
Yeah,
and
the
it's
whole
like,
thing unravels. It starts.
Totally. And it's like, I get that. It happens to me all the time. And it physically affects me and etherically affects your life by virtue of me turning into a puddle. So I think about that a lot. So when I see it in other people, I'm like, please don't feed it, because it will literally break your body down.
Yep. Over time, it will, straight up. I believe that anyway.
I believe it too. And so I become like an accidental finger pointer of like, don't do that. Like, take a fucking breath, man. Like, back up. And like, her name's Kirsten. She's coming on soon. I can't wait to see her.
I hope she does. We tried to get her to come in today just to at least be in the audience, because that's a nice, like, I don't know, kiddie pool, so to speak. Like, just dip your toe in and see how it is energetically.
Well, it all goes into what we're saying of like, there's so much fear that people have that work in the entertainment business of like, I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to piss off someone.
Do you feel, and I'm sorry, I agree with all of that, and I see it as being a problem as well. It's been a problem with people I've tried to get on, or people that have been on already, but it was a hump to get over. Do you find that now that we're starting to have different caliber, or whatever, we're just Porsche corporates here, and actual stand-up comedians are here, and Rod Emery's here, and there are names and stuff. Do you find that, or do you think from your experience anyway, that will make it easier for people to come in and let their guard down and know that, oh, this is serious. We're not here to like ruin anybody's life or career. We're actually here to do the opposite. We're here to help you. We're here to help you through stuff. And like, it's like therapy almost in a weird way. Dr. Phil.
I think that
was a lot. I threw a lot at you, but you know what I'm saying?
Excuse me, I'm just hiccuping and burping a little bit. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I liked how you called it a hiccup, because I heard.
I was trying to be polite. I think that historically, in my old job, it would be a huge selling point. I think it is, inherently speaking, I think it's a win. The difference being, and I've run into this, people don't necessarily know who I'm talking about when we've had awesome people in.
It's true.
And so it doesn't mean as
100%.
much. Because I worked in a really superficial business where it's like, if you know that word or name.
100%. But you also work in a business where now they're all data collectors. Mm-hmm. So they can go look at someone like, I'm going to say Rod Emery, because I know he's got over 100,000 subscribers, followers, fans, friends, whatever, on this stuff. So wouldn't they just go look at like, oh, here are the guests we've had on, and they would go look at that and they're like, oh, well, here's the reach, because nobody cares what the forum is anymore? Or am I wrong about that?
I think you're a little antiquated. You're not wrong.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where knowing the landscape will help you and help us and me and whatever.
Sure.
But knowing how to navigate the landscape from my past will help me see it differently. I think that I think one of the biggest hurdles I've come up with is people not thinking they're good enough to be here.
Oh, so this would actually, if I was even right, it would work in the opposite.
Yeah, that it's too much pressure.
Holy crap!
I know, right?
We're in our dining room in our place.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's not for us. It's so not for. I mean, we shower to do this, but like we probably wouldn't have to. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing. Should have washed
my hair today.
It's that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's weird to talk about.
So informal, and we're not famous or fancy, you know. Famous or fancy.
I think that a lot of my friends worked in such a high caliber setting.
How about risk? High risk.
High risk, high caliber, like they go hand in hand. So I think people are more gun shy from my old world. We also I did not know how segregated kind of the entertainment business was in terms of like how to sell stuff. Because my friend works in home entertainment now, and it's how I started initially. And I remember when I went from home entertainment to like global PR, that I was like really into doing home entertainment press. I was like, no, they should do this. And my boss was like, they don't get paid.
That's pride. Whatever you're doing at the time, you want to take pride in and think it's important and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't realize, and it was more so at the time, in that you market it differently to home entertainment viewers versus weekend box office people.
Yeah, of course, it's a different audience.
And now the way that you market differently is what talent's in a movie, like means what kind of way you market a movie. If it's funny, if it's drama, if it's an urban comedy, whatever, like it changes everything based on the talent that you have available.
Interesting. So the train's the same, but the stops along the way are different. Interesting.
Yeah, because there's so many different ways to market things now. And
because of all the outlets?
The kinds of outlets. Like we do we're in a nebulous field of like, do we have a talk show or a podcast?
It was intentional.
Right.
Creating something new.
Which is cool because she's in home entertainment now, so she works on a lot of older titles. So she works with a lot of casts that have been kind of kept in that age of like, she was telling me she worked on something with Grease lately, and like they were the Grease people, and it's like she didn't really watch Grease.
The movie Grease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And neither did I. So like we're not fangirls about it, but she had to like.
Man, some people are. Holy crap! Some people love that movie.
Yes.
That's a great LA movie too. I haven't seen it probably since I lived here. I saw it as a kid once, I think.
I think you showed it to me one time, or maybe you told me to watch it because the school isn't that.
Yeah, we just looked at a picture just to show, because we used to live right near Rydell High in Venice when we lived in Venice for all those years.
Oh, jeez. That's cool.
But everybody who came to visit us needed to go see it because they all loved it. So it's a thing, like people love that movie.
Well, and that's what she's seeing too now, because she used to do bigger blockbustery type things like me.
Is the nostalgia starting to hit and the studios are starting to get it with some of this stuff? I mean, obviously all the remakes and everything are out there. They understand that nostalgia is a thing. But do you know what I'm saying? Where we're bringing out old titles and like people are starting to realize that, holy crap, this was good.
I think different people are realizing it.
Okay.
I think there's always been a lone wolf or two who's like, this movie is my favorite. And millennial, like, whatever. We were all younger. Like, we all come in and we're like, fuck that. Like, I worked on this and this so-and-so is better.
Yeah,
like,
we're so important, especially when we're coming up.
Yeah, and the longer...
Got to feel like you're proving yourself all along, every rung of the ladder. God's sake. Ego,
but also, like, credits out here are your resume. So if you don't, like, that's just how it is. And that's whatever. For some people. But seeing, I think she's seeing now in home entertainment the myriad ways you can market something that is not typical or stereotypical, and it's really neat to see how all the different outlets kind of interplay, and it's allowing people opportunities to kind of decrease their own overwhelm, because it's like, okay, I don't have to watch a popular show. I can watch my friends. And I was telling her about My Favorite Murder. I'm like, here's the deal. Like, I do a lot of my stretching and like my medication in there. Like when I smoke pot, like because I use it to integrate like different neurons and shit in my body.
When you vape your medicinal cannabis, yes. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. I know it's legal and everything, but I mean, you don't smoke pot.
No, and thank you so much for clarifying, because I don't. I'm like actively not into that. So it's always weird to talk about with people that, like, she was working on that movie and also a Cheech and Chong movie at the same time.
Oh, that's so funny. I just whatever. I just put one on our queue, and I saw Up in Smoke. I've never seen Up in Smoke, but I know it's a classic and like a 70s stoner classic type thing. Plus Cheech and Chong. I mean, I know them individually for all those years, but I've never really seen anything from their time together. What did we just
watch with Tommy Chong?
He has a special.
That's what it is.
On something, and I think it was because of that. This was like a recommended viewing thing or whatever. But I think it's Up in Smoke. I just added. We should watch that. But Cheech has a different. I don't remember what his. It was a special, but it was done almost like a docu special.
That was neat, and it was nice to be able to talk to her about that, because she's.
I think it's just called 420 with Cheech Marin or something.
Yeah.
No, with Tommy Chong, or Tommy Chong's 420 or something.
Oh yeah, that used to be, I remember like my first week working at my job that I had, I got a request for someone like high visibility, like I forget who, but someone that was not a known pot smoker. This back like early 2000s, like the conversations of it legalizing were not here yet.
Yeah, I don't even know if we had medicinal then. I think it might have been mid 2000s.
I think
2000s.
it was
I can't
before
remember.
that because I started working there at 2002, so it was like pretty soon after I started working there.
And neither one of us had any interest in
No.
smoking pot at the time. Yeah,
Zero. And
we were drinkers.
Yeah, big drinkers. Me.
It was easy.
Well, yeah, and they provided for free at all the events you go to.
Keep going.
So anyway, I remember getting this request and being super nervous to tell my boss about it. Like, I had
because
nothing to do with it.
the talent, this person wanted to have pot provided.
They wanted the experience of this interview, and they knew they would get pot. They knew they would sit with a writer who would be like, here's a joint, like whatever. And it's more the experience that they were going to get out of doing an interview with someone like High Times versus
Oh,
the
it was
LA
for
Times.
High Times. Okay, see, did you mention that ahead of time?
No.
Okay, dope.
My bad. I buried the lead, I guess.
No, but now I understand what we're talking about more so.
Hi, I'm confusing.
No,
Welcome to
it's great.
Confusing Corner with Nicole.
She's making it all about her. No, it's totally fine. Pick it up and keep going.
No. Well.
Wow. Are you going anywhere, or should I?
No, you should do. Yeah, I don't know. So
Then
I'll
no.
jump.
If you know,
Then
okay,
no.
then this is. I'm not angry or anything. You looked at me like, is he upset? Like, no, I'm not. I think everyone thinks I have a. Tori the other day too. Something when we did the open house podcast. Tori was like, "Oh, Jay's dying inside or whatever. Something happened with the." You leaned over to him and asked if he wanted to be set up or something during like the break, but it wasn't really a break. So I was just like, "Hi, excuse me, like your mics are on," and you know, that was more of like an FYI for you guys of, do you want to be talking about this on the show, because this is on the show. But for some reason you both thought I was like pissed off or something. I was just switching over the studio and adding mics and stuff. So do I have one of those faces where we're like, oh my God, do not upset that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, it's true. You won't like me when I'm angry. No, I'm just kidding.
No one does.
Yeah.
I speak from experience.
Who wants anybody angry? By the way, do you know why that is? Because it's so hard to make me angry that once you get somebody, it's the fucking that thing you love from The Price is Right. Your lady, your lady, your lady, your lady. And then at the end, whoom, it's like he climbs all the way to the top. Guess what? The higher he goes, there's no more oxygen. He's more and more tired. He gets up there, man, the guy's almost dead, and you're still fucking yammering or whatever. Yeah, eventually he just jumps off the cliff.
I can explain it astrologically.
Okay.
But
I don't want to get into it, but I would love to hear it.
I won't get into it. I'll save it for another time. Please remind me. But I apologize for the discomfort that causes, because I don't like that discomfort myself. So sorry for bringing that to the table.
That's awesome. All right. Well, you had coffee with your friend Kirsten this morning, and she gave you some viewer mail. So I'm going to hand over some viewer mail to Mrs. Ryan.
She was so cute about this. She always picks me up for coffee before she goes to therapy. And the only reason she did not change her mind and just come here now is because she was going to yet another doctor's appointment, which is what we talk about quite frequently.
You're just supposed to be opening viewer mail. I don't know what all that is.
Just some background.
Yeah, but does she want to know people know that she's going to the therapy and doctors and
She's
stuff?
going to talk about it here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she gave me this
Again,
shirt.
then you buried the lead.
I bury the lead all the time. But isn't that shirt cool?
It's incredibly cool. Do you?
I'll let you do it properly.
Well, no, it's a matter of you could just look at the monitor and see. But I think it's wonderful, and it's so you, and it's adorable, and it's all our stuff. Aloha and good vibes.
Yeah. She was so cute when she gave it to me.
Plus, it's going to look adorable on you.
I know. I can't wait. She was so cute when she gave it to me.
Can I see it one more time?
Yeah.
What does it remind me of? Was it Karate Kid or The Laugh Factory? I just saw something. It just like popped into my head. It's almost like The Laugh Factory, but not. But there's something going on there, and a little bit of Karate Kid. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, there's something going on there that's a little bit
Miami
familiar.
Vice.
Yeah, maybe Miami Vice.
That palm tree looking thing. Super
that
cute.
palm tree looking thing.
Is that right? Oh, it's whatever.
Palm tree.
It's a palm tree. There's an armband though. Name of that.
What's that?
There was a.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just noticed.
So thanks to Kirsten.
Thank you, Kirsten, and I can't wait to have you on. And don't be nervous. Everyone's nervous. And then I'm like, no, but I get nervous every day. And then I get even more nervous.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You don't exactly come across as confident, I would imagine, when you're telling, like, they say, well, I'm nervous. And you probably say, yeah, I get nervous every day. And it's kind of like that doesn't really settle them down versus like, oh, yeah, everybody's nervous at first. But the moment you start, it goes right away or anything like that.
Here's the deal. They're going to sit here and I'm going to look nervous anyway. So I don't want a lot of them be like, it goes away, because it doesn't sometimes. But if you want to just be authentic, then you have nothing to be nervous about. I just don't ever know what to talk about because I'm used to being like, don't say that. Say this instead, and having it written down. I'm just not used to flying on the seat of my pants. But
wow, you're still going.
Oh,
okay.
no, I'm done.
I don't know.
No, I didn't know I talk so much. Sorry.
You don't. I just think you're going to end a bunch of times, and I'm over here waiting to push the button, and it's like, so I think I get caught up in that part, and that's the left brain, right brain that, I need to learn better.
I should be more aware.
What I would like to say is this nervousness everyone speaks of, there are ways to mentally convert that to excitement. And that's all. I'm going to plant that seed. I'm not going to tell you how to do it or say that you should or anything like that. But if nervousness is a thing, anxiety, stuff like that, figure out where it is in your body, and you can use that stuff. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of heady stuff possible that we've learned and found out.
Yeah, a ton of trick, they're called, like, there's all sorts of listicles with like life hacks and whatever, and it's like, yeah, you can look at that, or you can just literally, I told her, I was like, take a month and meditate for 5 minutes every day and clear your mind and figure out what you really want. Like, that's really all the advice I could give anyone.
Did this become a new advice column corner thing? Because I was just talking about something and I was indeed giving advice. So you're like, we're giving advice now. I'm asking. I'm not telling you. I'm asking.
The answer is no. So I'm just going to.
Here's what I notice. Whenever I address the camera, like, I'm addressing the camera, and then I notice that you want to too. So we should then maybe teach you how to do that. And then you can look up, please. And then you can look into the camera and do stuff because you want to or something. I can tell. And then you talk here instead of to me. And then you're talking to everyone else.
Follow my own advice and shut the fuck up.
Am I making you nervous now? I don't mean to. I'm trying to help.
You're very helpful. I've made myself nervous by projecting what a jerk I feel like in your eyes.
then I'm not doing a good job of not letting you know I don't think you're a jerk. Of letting you know I don't think you're a jerk. Listen, I don't know how, you are the Benji Vortex. I don't know how we get into these holes of craziness. I don't know why we're talking about it. I love you so much. There's no problem though. I don't want you to think that there's any kind of thing. The thing comes when you think there's a thing and there isn't, and I try to convince you for so long that there isn't and you still don't necessarily believe, then there becomes like a real thing. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm the most authentic person I've ever met. I don't know why my own wife doesn't believe me.
This is where I'm the worst, and I own that, and you're right, and I'm sorry. Thanks.
Well, don't be sorry. I love the hell out of you. We should wrap it up, though, I think, because we've just yammered on.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow we've got a guest. Who is it?
It's my friend Alfred, who used to work with me at BWR way back in the day.
Does Alfred have a last name?
His name's Alfred Hopton.
So we're talking about the guest for tomorrow's show. We're advancing.
His name is Alfred Hopton, and he worked with me back for like 2002 to like 08.
So he was a publicist too?
Yeah, on the corporate like event side.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. That'll
it'll
be very
fun to see him.
Figure out what he's doing now and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Ryan. I love you very much. We love you at home very much, and we will see you tomorrow with Alfred Hopton.
Yeah.
All right, cool. See you tomorrow.
Bye.